Alright, so we got some hot enhancements today to go over. We're going to start with Shadow Lord. Old Shadow Lord, old meme dream Shadow Lord here, coming in. Is he good now? Is he going to be worthwhile for you guys to use? He's going to be pretty powerful. That's what we're going to go. So we're going to scroll all the way down here to his awakenings. His old spirit plus 20% passive. If you awaken, it's going to turn into triple cast any of Shadow Lord's skills. So that's a huge increase in power right then and there. Going from spirit plus 20% to a permanent triple cast. Very nice. His cross smash plus 2. You're going to be seeing this a lot if used after Blood Weapon. If you use it before Blood Weapon, though, it's going to do dark damage. 5-point mod with a 50% defense break with a 60% dark imperil, and then dark imbue him. It's mainly here for the dark imbue. If you use it after Blood Weapon, the multiplier goes up to 9. The defense break goes up to 60. Those are kind of okay things. The 100% imperil is very nice here, so more damage there, and it's going to add dark element to your physical attacks for 5 turns here instead of 3 turns. So this is going to be, if you want the dark imperil 100%, if you want the 5-turn lasting long imbue, you're going to want to bump this up to cross smash plus 2. So both these enhancements so far are looking very strong for him. Now we have dynamic implosion here. Dynamic implosion is going to be a chain finisher skill for him. If you plus 2, it's going to be a 13.2 modifier with HP sacrifice 15%. If you use it after Blood Weapon, though, it's going to be a 24 mod with HP sacrifice 15%. So this is very, very strong. 24 modifier chain finishing skill. 15% HP sacrifice instead of 30%. Very nice there, because remember, you'd be triple casting. If they left this alone at 30%, you'd be almost killing yourself every time you use dynamic implosion. But now you can do, you know, if you triple casted this, just a chain finish 3 times, it's 45% of your HP. That is a lot, but there is going to be an item coming out this weekend that maybe you guys get your hands on if you want to be using Shadow Lord. That should be pretty easy to get because it's the King Mog, and I'll tell you what it is right now. It's Furian's TMR, which is a 2-handed sword. It's got 135 attack, not the highest in the game, but it does have a 1.5 multiplier for the weapon variants on average, which is higher than a normal sword's 1.3 multiplier, and then it has a special effect where you drain the HP of enemies for the amount of damage you do by a percentage of that, and we can do a lot of damage here, so you should be able to just fully heal yourself every time with Shadow Lord. That might be a weapon that you'll be seeing on a lot of Shadow Lord friends, and maybe even one that you you are using yourself there. So dynamic implosion, looking for the chain finish 24 mod, very powerful. And remember the change that is in the game now. If you use Blood Weapon and then you use this skill on the same turn, it would count as using after Blood Weapon, and it should count for the turn after that as well. So you should be able to get that 24 mod in there over and over and over there. The next one here is going to be Doom Arc, which is going to turn into an absolute mirror of equity chaining skill at plus 2. 100 thrusts is what it gets at plus 1. Very weird that they made it go from like nothing and 100 thrusts into absolute mirror of equity. 100 thrusts is literally just this skill, Doom Arc plus 1, and 100 thrusts from Aurora. Very weird. Not really a chain family there, but Doom Arc plus 2 here. If you use it after Blood Weapon, 18.0 mod, and HP sacrifice 10. So, and it's absolute mirror of equity. So that's pretty powerful there as well. Blood Weapon down here does get enhanced as well. And this is something that you're going to want to enhance if you're using them. The plus 2 version makes it a 2-turn cooldown. So you can pop this off, right? Use your 2 skills. They'll be enhanced. You'll get the enhanced versions. And then the turn after that, you should be able to, I do believe, have it still count as being used after Blood Weapon. But then after that, you Blood Weapon again and use your 2 skills. So he pretty much goes from, if this counts for the turn you use it, which it does, and the turn afterwards for enhancing the skills because you used it after, then you'll basically be using Blood Weapon 2 damage skills, 3 damage skills, Blood Weapon 2 damage skills, 3 damage skills. So very powerful there with those multipliers of 18.0 and 24.0 on his damage and skills. It also does 20% HP to yourself when you use it, 250% attack buff for 2 turns, the turn you use it and the turn afterwards, which fits with the 2-turn cooldown. And it also heals HP over 2 turns as well. And like I said, if you're using CG Furian's TMR, which you should be able to buy the Moogle for in the Moogle shop if you want to use a Moogle Prism for it, then that's going to erase all of this damage that he's doing to himself. Obviously, you can get through it with otherwise strong HP regions and all of that other stuff there. It also has like an HP region right here attached to it there. So that's going to be a significant, that's going to be a 10k HP region over 2 turns. So you might not even need to use CG Furian with the Blood Weapon. 19,998 over 2 turns. That's 9,999 roughly. Maybe a little bit more than 9,999 HP regen each turn for 2 turns. Since you're dual casting this, you're going to always have that up. So Very powerful. Even with the HP damage to yourself and the skills to yourself, you're gonna be able to proc that back up. You know, 10,000 HP on a DPS is a lot of health over 2 turns. It's definitely gonna equate to all of your HP going back to full there. But we have Immortal Justice here as well for his next skill. Very powerful. Few plus to it. It has chance to ignore fatal damage multiple times here. We've seen this on Tsukiko. Very powerful, 100% proc rate on all of them. The first hit that would kill you, if you're above 40% HP, it locks you to 40% HP. The next hit would kill you. If you're above 20% HP, it locks you to 20% HP. And then the next hit that would kill you, if HP is above 10%, it'll lock you to 10. So you can get hit 3 times and get killed 3 times. And if you were above 40% HP, you won't die, and then you won't die. And then if you get re-raised, this works again. So if you have re-raise on, you're going to have to get hit 7 times. 8 times. 8 times for him to actually die. Very, very strong enhancement here. Makes him very, very tanky. 8 hits have to kill him for him to actually die if you have a re-raise on him. Very powerful there. Because the first hit doesn't die, second hit doesn't die, third hit doesn't die, fourth hit kills him, but he re-raises, 5th hit doesn't die, 6th hit doesn't die, 7th hit doesn't die, 8th hit will actually kill him. He just gets a defensive spirit buff of 30% passive on top of that as well. We have Hatred for the Tailkeeper +2, 70% attack and HP buff. So he's going to be very, very tanky on top of that with a lot of attack here. Then he gets a 200% attack buff for 3 turns when his HP drops below 50%. So you'll be able to get this up there as well with his self-damaging stuff. So he's going to have like a pretty much permanent 200% attack buff. Very hard to kill. Does good damage there. So Shadow Lord's looking mighty powerful. And then his last ability awaken here is the Shadow Lord. 200% true double hand and 50% true dual wield. So very, very strong character in my opinion. Should you awaken him? If you're looking for a strong physical damage dealer, you don't really have one yet, this guy is going to be your ticket there. He does have dark damage. He is kind of based around dark, but he's not going to be locked to dark. All these other skills, like the Implosion here, does do dark damage, but Doom Arc, his chaining skill, does not do dark damage. So if you don't want to do dark damage, you don't have to do dark damage with this chaining skill, but he's going to need someone to imbue and imperil for him if you're not doing dark damage. But all in all, Shadow Lord, very powerful damage dealer on the physical side, very tanky as well. That's going to help him do a lot of stuff out there for a lot of players. So if you're looking for a tanky, strong chaining character with AT chaining or even chain finishing character, Shadow Lord is going to be your ticket to success. The next one is going to be Lord and Shantotto, another very powerful ability awakening, a little bit harder to make work than Shadow Lord and a little bit confusing to go through, but let's talk about Lord and Shantotto. Originally she's got like triple cast on her trust ability and stuff like that. You kind of wanted to get her TMR on there and triple cast her magic. That was about it. She had her abilities here to do damage, but she didn't really have use 2 abilities in 1 turn, so you really didn't want to do that. She had unlockable Roga, Blizzaga, Faraga, Stonega, Thundaga, and Waterga too. But now let's go in here and look at what she has for ability awakenings. The first one here is going to be her defense passive is going to get changed into an activated cooldown skill, which is definitely something you're going to want to pick up if you're going to use her. It's a 6-turn cooldown available on turn 1. It unlocks quadruple chain spell +2 for 4 turns to the caster, which is quadruple cast black magic, which is going to be very, very, very strong for her. This is where a lot of her damage is going to come from. She also gets a 200% attack buff, or magic buff, excuse me, 200% magic buff for 4 turns, and it cures the magic break on her. Her next 2 skills here, Flare 2 and Flood 2, are turned into Chaos Wave skills. They are a total of 12 times modifier, but they're broken up into 2 different parts. So it's a 2 times multiplier in the first couple hits, and then an 8.0 backloaded hit at the very end here with a fire of resistance debuff of 80% on flare and a water resistance debuff 80% on water. So we'll revisit this at the end, and I'll talk about how this is probably her best skill to go after once we look at some of her other ability awakenings here. But 12 or 10.0 multiplier here so far, and it will go up at the end. We'll talk about that. Her Elemental Seal +2 enables the tier 5 spells +2. For 3 turns to the caster, gives her increased magic of 300% for the next action that she uses, so the next spell, the next ability, and then she gets a 200% magic buff for 2 turns to the caster. This one's okay. It does, if you want to do, non-fire and non-water damage, it gives you ice, wind, earth, and thunder as well. It also gives you the Water G5 and Fire G5, but these are going to be weaker than her Flare and Flood counterparts. Mana Wall here mitigates magic damage by 35% for 4 turns to all allies, and then it gives an HP barrier of 1,000 for all allies as well. So a little bit of support here. Magic Mitigation 35 for 4 turns is very, very, very long. But remember, she's a mage that wants to cast actual magic, so you can't like use Mana Wall and then like a cooldown skill. She doesn't have like dual cast abilities. She's only got dual, triple, and quadra-cast magic. Now we have Mana Font. It's going to go down to an 8-turn cooldown. Refreshes a lot of MP. This is 1,000 MP over 4 turn, or 1,000 MP a turn, just about for 4 turns to the caster. 200% magic buff, and then enables Aroga 5, Blizzaga 5, all the +2 versions for 4 turns as well, if you want to be casting those. Then her next skill down here, Former Oristary Minister. Defense, Magic, Spirit, HP, and MP plus 50%. So you want this +2 for that 50% HP. Shantotto's pretty squishy. You're going to want to have that extra girth to her there with that Magic, Defense, Spirit, HP, and MP. So everything but attack plus 50%. Very powerful there. Spirit Magic skill A+, +2 is going to give her 100% magic. And this is going to increase the modifier to Flare and Flood 2 by 2.0. So this isn't going to be a 2.0. Remember, those skills are broken down to 2 different hits. So the first part of the hit, the original 2.0 mod, is going to get a 2.0 increase. And then that 8.0 mod is also going to get a 2.0 increase, which is going to increase it from a 10.0 mod to a 14.0 modifier there. And then her tier 1 spells to get a 3.0 modifier, but you're not really going to use these skills down here. We have a Double Hand Magic Staff +2. It's going to give 150% true double hand magic. Makes her very easy to build. Halfway to the cap just for being alive. And then You're Making Me Lose My Temper. Gives her a +50% magic buff, and then you can counter with this for a couple of turns. This counter 3 per cast per counter for physical attacks and 3 cap per magic attacks, gives her 3 limit burst gauge crystals per turn. And then enhancing this also upgrades her limit burst, so we'll have to look at her limit burst after this as well. Quadruple chain spell, as you could guess, gives her quadruple cast magic except blue magic. Okay, another nod to blue magic being added to the game. And then you can see her tier 5 spells are all 12.0 multipliers, whereas her Flood and Flood 2, after that enhancement up here, is going to be a 14.0 modifier there. So the Flood and Flare 2s are going to be better than these, due to these being 12s, the other ones being 14s. But if you want to have access to Thunder, Wind, Stone, and Ice, then these are what you're going to want to do there. If an enemy's immune to water or fire, you're going to be looking at these tier 5 spells to do your damage there. Here's her counter, 3 limit burst gauge to the caster, and then her limit burst upgraded. You're going to want to upgrade it because her limit burst will also give you quadruple cast chain spell on top of that, and it's going to be a 34 times modifier non-elemental damage to one enemy. It's going to be a 100% imperil. It's going to unlock the tier 5 spells +2 again, and it's going to give you that quadruple cast magic. So how powerful is she? She's going to be pretty good, okay, with the Flare and Flood not being super crazy, with it being a 14.0 multiplier. This is stuff like Ellie was doing. But if you want to make her really strong, what you need to have in your party is Folka. So if you're using CG Folka, after her enhancements, she's very, very powerful in her own right. Very, very strong healer and supportive character with her attack, defense, magic, and spirit break resist, her heals, her spammable barriers, and then one skill that we didn't really use for a long time was Water Mirage. And what Water Mirage is, Folka has it. I do believe it is dual castable with her as well. It absorbs a little bit of uses up a little bit of Folka's limit burst gauge, but what it does do once it's enhanced is increases the multipliers of a lot of water magic by 3.0, and that increases the water magic, including Flood 2, by 3.0. So if you use that on Shantotto, she's going to get a 3.0 multiplier to her Flood 2. It's going to add a 3.0 multiplier here, and it's going to add a 3.0 multiplier here. So that 3.0 multiplier from Folka combined with Shantotto's own 2.0 multiplier increase from having Spirit Magic skill +2 is going to be a 5.0 multiplier total, which means that we're going to get a 5.0 multiplier to this one and this one. So a 10.0 multiplier total, which is going to give her a 20 times multiplier increase, or 20 times multiplier total to Flood 2, which makes her very, 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 very strong. Cersei's out there, pretty much with permanent quadracast. Shantotto also has permanent quadracast, and Cersei's out there with not nearly as high as a multiplier as Shantotto is. And then on top of that, Folka is going to help your Shantotto live with the spammable 2000 HP barriers, and Folka has plenty of right to be in your party for all of the stuff that Folka does do with the damage mitigations, the HP barriers, the stat breaks, the heals. The massive mana consumption will be countered with Folka as well, because Shantotto's skills are very MP hungry, as you can see, 110 per cast here. And Folka can help you deal with that as well. So if you're looking to use Shantotto, pair her up with Folka, and she's going to be Very, very, very powerful. More powerful than she would be without a Shantotto or without a Folka in your party. 80% water in peril, 20 times multiplier on the Flood 2. Very, very simple to use too. All you'll do is turn 1, you will go ahead and use Now I've Lost My Temper, get that 200% magic buff, get the quadruple chain spell, and then turn 2, just use that water mirage on your Shantottos, right? And then start firing off quadra-cast water spells for as long as you can. And then once you're done doing that, you limit burst with Play Rough, and then you'll go back up to Play Rough upgrade as a 21 mod as well. So it goes from a 24 multiplier, right, that's a 7-hit skill, to a 34 multiplier, 21 hit skill there as well. Get that 100% in peril again, and then get your quad cast back up, and then just start quad casting your buffed up water Flood 2s once again. So very, very powerful here with Livid Shantotto. Shadow Lord and Shantotto, very strong, representing that Final Fantasy 11 player base. That's what I want to see out there. And very strong mage, extremely strong. So if you're looking for a strong mage, Livid Shantotto. If you're looking for a strong damage dealer, Shadow Lord, you're ready to go there. Now, next one here is Nalu. She also got some significant upgrades. All right. She also get permanent triple cast, which is going to help her out. Panther Strike increases her damage against beasts by 100% for 5 turns to the caster. You have to use this skill here. Blaster 2, won't really be using this. I wouldn't even upgrade this. 8.0 multiplier, AoE 1-hit skill, gives you paralysis and petrify. Lightning Spear Jab +2 here. It's going to add lightning attacks or add lightning element to your physical attacks for 5 turns. It's going to do a 9.0 multiplier. It's a 1-hit skill, so it's a chain finisher. And the real reason you'd use it here is to upgrade the multipliers for your skills here, including Thunder Spear, which is her next skill that we're going to be talking about. Thunder Spear here has been +2'd. It is now the Bolting Strike Chain Frame family. It's going to be a 4.0 multiplier with ignore 50% defense. So it's going to be an 8.0 multiplier. But if you do put this Thunder Spear multiplier increase from Lightning Spear Jab on it, it's going to be a 6.0 nor 50, so a 12.0 multiplier with an 80% Thunder Imperil. And you can triple cast this if you do desire. Hunting Expertise down in here, attack plus 65%, beasts, insects, and plant killer 75%, and then another 50% true double hand when single wielding any weapon. So 50% true double hand there. And then Fearless +2, poison, blind, paralysis, confusion, and disease resistance with an auto HP heal. 50% attack, 30% spirit, and 10% MP per turn. And we'll talk about how strong is she. She's going to be okay. Nothing super insane, like around Esther, maybe. Probably a little bit lower than Esther because her limit burst here, she works a lot like Esther does, where she triple casts the Bolting Strike, 8 to 10 times multiplier, or 8 to 12 times multiplier, right around what Esther's doing. But then Esther has a very strong limit burst, whereas Nalu really doesn't have a strong limit burst so much. Hers is a 12.0 mod. Esther's is way higher than that. Esther has a limit burst damage buff. So Nalu, not really all that strong. Esther's got a higher attack break, so she's like a little bit weaker than Esther. The plus side of Nalu is that she can equip bows, actually, and there's a lot of strong bows out there. And you can just get her trust ability, the Swift Hunter, throw that on her if you're going to use her. Put a bow on her, give her the trust ability for Swift Hunter, and she's got a lot of killers for a lot of different animals now. She's got Beast, Plants, Insects, Beast, Plants, Insects. This one gets buffed up to 75%. She's got a Beast Killer buff, so if you want to slay some beasts, that's where you're going to want to use her. That's where she's going to shine. She also does pretty well against insects and plants, and on top of that, just shove off 12 times multiplier. Not the highest in the world. We have a lot of characters with higher than 12 times multipliers, but pretty easy to cap the true double hand on, pretty easy to cap attack on top of that, and makes use of bows. So while she might not have the highest looking attack with a bow on, right, Aang TMR, or the Bloody Moon bow also has more Beast Killer on it too. I do believe the Bloody Moon Reborn bow has Beast Killer on it, 142 attack. So she'll be able to use that, and that'll really complement her kit really well if you're looking to slay some beasts. Outside of that, nothing super insane, but if you're fighting beasts, she's going to be very, very powerful for you there with all the Beast Killer you're going to be able to throw on her, right? Put a Freed on her, cap that Beast Killer out, put the Beast Killer buff up from her skill, and just smash beasts into the ground there. And you know what? She's a hunter, so that makes sense that she's going to be doing all of that good stuff there for you. So that's Nalu. The next one's going to be Seaside Nicole. He got a lot, dude. And Seaside Nicole is trying to take the crown from CG Seaguard for how many... look at a lot of these. How many different enhancements you can get. So let's go through them real quick. Lifeguard. Remember, guys, as we're going through these things, he has dual cast for Lifeguard skills and dual cast for Diver skills. He doesn't have dual cast everything, okay? So only Lifeguard and Diver. If you see anything on that, it's not dual castable down in here. So we have Lifeguard Rejuvenator. Nice HP heal, a little bit. Okay, the multiplier is kind of garbage. Small heal over right away. So 2,500 with a 3.5 multiplier. That's like a Kiraga tier heal, somewhere around there. So nothing super insane. Enhancement, probably not even worth picking up, to be honest with you. The multiplier increase, 2.0 increase, not that big of a deal. Lifeguard Refreshment, recovers 40 MP to all allies, and the next turn recovers another 40 MP. So this one's pretty good. Makes him a very solid MP battery. You can dual cast this with another skill that you're using with Lifeguard, and it's going to be 80 MP per cast, 40 now, 40 later. And we have Sunblock +2. A very strong skill. Mitigates physical damage by 50% for 3 turns, but it's only to 1 ally. So you can put this on your tank, and it's going to make him take a lot less damage. This is physical damage mitigation, so it's going to stack with like magic damage mitigation, and stack with general damage mitigation. So very, very strong. If you want to put this on your tank, makes him immune to defense breaks, cures defense break, and gives a 150% defense buff. The main thing on here is this. Maybe the defense break cure in case you were late to put the defense break resist up, but this is the main thing here. 50% damage mitigation of physical. He also has sunscreen +2, which is the reverse. It's for magic damage, so he's got magic damage mitigation, spirit buff, spirit break resist, and spirit break resistance removal, or spirit break removal with the resistance. So pretty powerful. You put this on your tanks, right? If you're using someone to tank everything, it's gonna be very strong. I wish these were added to his dual cast. Remember, these aren't lifeguard or diver skills, so you're not dual casting these. This is all he's doing. If you do that, he'd be way stronger if, say, maybe, right, take like Sacred Shield Charlotte for instance, right? Use Sacred Shield Charlotte's Limit Burst. Imagine this world. Sacred Shield Charlotte's Limit Burst popped off. 50% general mitigation. Then you give Sacred Shield Charlotte 50% magic mitigation. You give her 50% physical mitigation. You have 50% physical, 50% magic, and 50% general mitigation. You can do that, just not all on the same turn nowadays. But that would make her tank a lot of stuff if you were inclined to do that. Now we have diver skills. These are dual castable. Diver Waterfall +2 is changed to an absolute mirror of equity chaining frame family. 80% water imperil and water damage here. So if you want a water AT chain, he can do that as a supportive option for you. Then he's got Diver Icicle, same thing, but instead of water, it's for ice. So ice imperil and ice AT chain skills. Now I have Sandcastle and Foam. These are the AoE versions of the physical and magic damage mitigation. So we have a 35% physical mitigation for all allies for 3 turns, 35% magic mitigation, all allies for 3 turns as well. 130% defense buff on Sandcastle, 130% spirit buff on Foam, and then they both will give a 1000 HP barrier. Now keep in mind, these are not dual castable. They're not diver skills, all right, or anything of that nature. They're not diver, they're not lifeguard skills, so no dual cast these. If you're using these, this is all you're doing. These are some of the stronger skills, which is my main problem with him thus far, is that his strong enhancements are not dual castable. Then we have Fancy Beverage, TMR or Super TMR equipped, so this is Trustability. Esper bonus stats, 60%, that's okay, a little bit of extra stats there. Defense, HP, Magic, and Spirit, 20%. 100% immunity to Silence, and then it gives him 50% true double hand magic for some reason. I guess, I don't know, like, okay, I guess it's an incentive to make him do more damage, but he's just support, he's not a mage. I mean, he's got nice multipliers, as you can see down here with his new diver skills. But he just doesn't have the rest of the stats to really back him up to being like a crazy cool mage. He could be like a mage that like offers support, but like his best supportive skills are very slow because you can't cast 2 of them in the same turn. So very, very weird decision there. His next 2 skills, the Diver Submersion and the Diver Regulation. So Diver Submersion, it goes up to a 10.8 mod and goes from Flood to Absolute Mirror of Equity. So this is a warning. I'm going to warn you guys here. If you're using your Seaside Nicole right now in your party and you're using him to support chain with Flood, right? A lot of people still do that, right? You have like someone use Flood, and then you have someone have like a Leviathan equipped, and you use Leviathan's Violent Current skill, which is also Flood, which allows you to, you know, chain with 2 supports who aren't really there for damage, right? Who aren't really there for damage, and then you like chain finish someone like Regina or CG Sid or any other chain finisher in the game. A lot of people do that. I used to do that a long time, right? I'd have like CG Nicole dual cast Flood, and then I'd have like someone dual wielding with Violent Current to make a cast 2 times from Leviathan and use Violent Current there, and they would chain together. If you're doing that right now and you change this from Flood to Absolute Mirror of Equity, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. So that's a warning there. If you're using a support Flood chainer, don't change Diver Submission. If you're using Diver Submersion. If you're using Diver Submersion exactly for that. Does he have Flood? He does have Flood, and I think he still has dual cast Black Magic. He does have dual cast Black Magic. So if you enhance it, you won't negate yourself from being able to just cast Flood, but what will happen is you won't be able to use that specific skill. So it's not that big of a deal. Just keep that in mind if you're trying to use just Diver Submersion. Diver Regulation? Regulation. I'm pronouncing it however I want, dude. It goes also to the ice version of Submersion. So it's 10.8 mod, Absolute Mirror of Equity, nothing super insane, but you can Absolute Mirror of Equity chain with those as well. The multipliers go up, but like I said, he's not really a mage, so it's not that big of a deal. Then Summer Fiesta +2, you can use this on turn 1 now, removes all debuffs from all allies, gives everyone 8 limit burst gauge crystals, and grants a 2000 HP barrier. So that's what's really happening with him. A lot of ability updates. A lot of them aren't really needed, right? You can probably skip the diver skills right here unless you want him to do AT chaining. The multiplier increases don't really matter. Summer Fiesta is a good one to pick up. 8 limit burst gauge AoE. You might be able to do something cool like get CG Shuttle limit burst off on turn 1. The foam and the sandcastle, great. If you wanted to have higher imperils, you can use these. Sunscreen and sunblock, very strong supportive options. Wish they were dual castable, but they're not. And then if you want more MP refresh, you can do this. Rejuvenator, really not that strong. So he got some help, but like I don't think it's enough to really make him like super insane. He really needed to be able to dual cast those mitigations. That's really what he needed. That would have gave him a strong niche where he was like probably the character with the strongest on-demand physical and magical damage mitigations in the game. Sadly, you can't dual cast them, so they come out extremely slowly there. And because they come out so slowly and they only last for 3 turns, it makes what you can do with your Seaside Nicole very restrictive, where you need to cast the physical one, then you need to cast the magic one if that's what you're looking for, and then you get to do one thing that you want, and you have to recast the physical one, and you have to recast the magic one. So keep that in mind. The next ones we'll go over will be pretty quick. It'll be Summer Sign Luka. Nothing really insane here. You know, she's got the Absolute Mirror of Equity chaining. She's got Bolting Strike chaining there as well, and then just a little bit more HP and MP and stuff like that, fire and water resistance. Being a 4-star, none of these things are going to put her on the map for being used in like, you know, high-end trials unless you have a bunch of gear. Next one is Shinju as well. What did she get? She got Divine Ruination after, you know, instead of Pile Driver. Listen, guys, I'm going to save you. We're not going to go over everything. Shinju's still terrible, all right? She's still bad. You're not going to use it for anything. Don't worry about her. Pacodia, dude, I think his best use is still, where's it at? Doesn't he have decrease in counter rate? That's the best use for him. If you have Pacodia in your team, dude, that's what you're using him for. You're using him to like go farm Mega Chris or something. All right. It is kind of funny that doesn't he get like 60%? He gets 60% true dual wield. He gets 60% true dual wield. But listen, if he's in your team, using him for that decrease in counter rate. And then Kupipi, last but not least, Kupipi in here. Defense, Spirit, MP passives. She does have the ability to cure all stat break and cure all status ailments. With Rolling Berries are great with a Kiraga tier heal here. So this is probably one of the best 3-star increases we've seen in a while. So, you know, maybe once 4-star, you can't even use her in the 4-star battles. I think the 4-star battles means you need to use exactly 4 stars. You can't use 3 stars in them. So keep that in mind. MP battery with devotion, but yeah, you're not using her for any of these new fights here. So Lord and Shantotto and Shadow Lord are definitely the 2 winners of this. They are incredibly powerful. Shadow Lord, if you need a strong physical damage dealer, this might just be your ticket. If you pulled some Shadow Lords, you're like, oh, Shadow Lord, so bad. Why do I gotta be so unlucky? Now you can go ahead and get that Shadow Lord and probably be content. Actually, be content with that damage dealer for a while there. Get yourself through a bunch of trials. He does do good. 24 multipliers, nothing to sneeze at. You know, triple cast, 24 mod if you use him as a chain finisher. Triple cast, 18 mod if you use him as a damage dealer. Very tanky, very survivable, very cool character now. And then Lord and Shantotto is up in here. Just if you have Folka in your party, she's gonna be insane. Be absolutely insane. If you don't have Folka in your party, she's quite a bit worse, right? Because that's a 6.0 multiplier decrease on her Flood 2 without Folka. But with Folka, if you're using Folka, my goodness, is she's going to be a monster for a lot of people out there. If you're looking for a mage, you know, maybe if you're trying to get through Bloody Moon, you make her a little bit tankier. She does get 50% HP. Her base HP is pretty low, though, 3,037. So that's her one downside. Is she is extremely squishy for a lot of those fights where she's taking damage. So you need to... what was the word I'm going to use? You're gonna need some sort of a some sort of plan to mitigate that. Oh, luckily, though, like I said, Folka does help her out, not only by increasing her multipliers by 6.0, but also give Folka with enhancements has that 2,000 HP spammable shield when she's using skills that she already needs to use anyways. So that's going to help her live as well. She should always have a 2,000 HP barrier up nearly every single turn. That's going to help her substantially. So outside of that, guys, let me know what you think down below. I think the Shadow Lord enhancements and the Lord and Shantotto enhancements are pretty powerful. Shantotto, her enhancements would have probably been a little bit subpar if you didn't have the ability to use Folka with her. It just okay, should have just been okay, but with using her with Folka, you know, breaks that egg wide open. Very, very strong, very, very powerful with that 20-ish times multiplier. Very, very good with that 20-ish times multiplier. Oh my goodness. Power. We call it power. Call it power. So let me know what you think down below. Leave your comments. Hit that like button. Hit the notification bell. Make sure it's on so you can get this and more other stuff. We'll be going over the CG Fury and banner tomorrow. Until then, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one.